time for the Carroll Cox Show right here at K108.
But anyway, back to Red Hill. So this, follow this now. I shared with you about a year ago, about 2014, 2015, and I laid specifically from their documents that the Navy had submitted to the State Health Department, that the Health Department claimed that they hadn't had a chance to review those records, but those were records that they demanded of the Navy to submit on a quarterly basis, telling sampling results. I don't know if that makes sense, but it don't make sense anyway. And when they're BSing the public, it doesn't make sense, and don't try to make sense of it. But what I can tell you is that they have taken this out of the basic airwaves and the papers and having private meetings. And I want to share with you something so that none of you go to sleep on this thing, because there's some serious implications here. And I'm going to try to explain it so I don't frustrate you and confuse you. The Navy has been regularly testing the groundwater at the Red Hill facility since 2005. There are no federal or state standards set for contaminants in groundwater. Rather, the state of Hawaii has established environmental action levels, and in some cases, site-specific risk-based levels for certain monitoring. So, if there are no federal standards or state standards for testing, why are you bothering testing? You can kill people with 1 billionth of a milliliter or 1 billionth or 10 pounds or 10 gallons. Whatever it is, there's no standards to say what's safe. So you then say that, well, the state has set environmental action levels. In case it's at a certain level, they will say take some action. So follow this now. Early on, they were saying, oh, we don't have anything in the water, and we're not finding it in the monitoring wells over here, and it's not in the water system at Pearl Harbor. But the reality is, it does not matter if it is, but they are finding it, but there's no standards, there's no levels, there's no safe levels, there's no EPA safe levels, and the state comes along and says, well, we'll do environmental action levels. So if it's a 10,000 parts per million, we will, say, post some signs, or we'll pump some air in it, or require that it go across into a pump, or mix some other chemicals. That's one. Or we'll look at it in its site-specific, so if, basically, to be facetious, if there was a pipe faucet going to the little children's center, they would be concerned, because these are children, and the chemicals there at any level might be threatening or harmful to them. But us rusty buckets don't matter. That's a site-specific risk-based. So imagine now, why this big charade of private meetings, secret meetings, if they are unwilling and there are no standards? Strange. So what are they really discovering in their sampling regime now? What levels? They're quiet about it. There's no need to be secret. We all should agree that, yes, they are leaking. The tanks are. There's contaminants in the water. We have to do something about it. We're monitoring. But no, they go and convene private meetings, and I think we owe that to David Ige, because he's the guy that appoints these dudes. And he's the guy, and also Mike Gabbard and Chris Lee, who initially came out and made these great representations and presentations and all, and sheltering and shielding the Navy, encouraging the behind-the-scenes, behind-the-doors negotiations, and the Navy got the state by the nose and just, come on, little puppy, come on, sit over here. No, don't go to the bathroom over there in that corner. No, you follow us. When it should be the other way around, because the State Health Department is a regulatory body. The EPA, though, if you go on their website, epa.gov, and just Google or search Region 9 Red Hill, and you'll come up with this document. The last updated document that they have on the EPA has is 2016. So they also have a document that was done May of this year that has the chemicals in it and talks about it and gives a history. The report to the 29th Legislature, State of Hawaii, 2016, pursuant to the City Concurrent Resolution 57, requesting the Department of Health continue to the task force to study the effects of the January 2014 spill. But they got us locked in on the 2014, but there's been spillage for years, contaminations for years introduced from this operation. And so it's so shameful. And I've asked, for example, you would think that on the state website there would be something, right? They're having their private meetings. You would think, well, we owe the public something. We just can't screw them that bad. We can't be that disrespectful. Transparency in IGE, IT, it ain't transparent. So I'm just to tell you, the Appendix B also identifies, and this is this document, tanks out of use, tanks. So they grouped all this together. Red Hill Buck Fuel Storage Facility, 2 tanks, tank 1 and tank 19 were emptied in 1987 and 1986 respectively. There are currently no future plans for these tanks. Kuahuna Peninsula Facility, former diesel purification plant, the 3 20,000 gallons and 20,000 gallon and 5 94,000 gallon concrete tanks have been emptied for 25 years. Active remediation began in 1996 for a fuel release and discontinued in 2006. Long-term management. So I'm reading this to you to show you we started off with Red Hill. So the neighbor says, well, maybe we should go and include them all the sites. And so that means, in quantifying that means the Red Hill, the greatest threat to our drinking water aquifer, is goes put on the back burner because we got to include all of them. And guess who's going along with this? David E. Gay and our state senator, Gabbard, and Chris Lee, and the others that voted for the resolution to pass it. So the Red Hill Buck Fuel Storage Facility releases from the Red Hill facility, including the January, including now, you see, they're coming clean now, including the 2014. Wow, that's funny. It was about 27,000 gallons initially, but they couldn't tell, and they were back and forth, and maybe it was a false reading, and the people didn't understand, and now, so they're in this document, later they come clean with it, including the 2014 leak. Are overseen by Solid Hazardous Waste Branch, UST program. How many people in the Solid Waste Hazardous program that's overseeing that? Think about 100? How many would you guess? I know of 1 and maybe 2. Okay? So on September 28, 2015, the AOC-SOW enforceable agreement to address cleanup and prevent future releases at the site, details below. The 3 other FCT's facilities with release associated with them in the past are various stages of remediation. Additional information on these facilities can be obtained. It's good information, but tell us what you're finding in the water. Tell us the levels. And they went to UH and had them to do a sampling or model, and they indicate, it won't impact the water at the Board Water Supply well. It doesn't matter if you're impacting drinking water. Any unforeseen situation may develop, requiring us to use that water, and may have to tap in directly. We could have a major quake, a major earthquake, causing a fracture in the dike below subsurface, and cause that water to drift in a whole different direction. We don't know. That's the whole makeup and the activities of geology. What's good today, when we have a shaker, we may have water flowing in one direction really good, and then all of a sudden one piece of rock fractures and slips down, and it's impervious, and it creates a dam, and that water goes somewhere else. So why are we allowing the Navy to play so loosely? And that reminds me, just in this general area, I've uncovered 5 million gallons of diesel fuel that on the ground there, along with other 13 other plumes. We have the TCEs, trichloroethylene, from the Navy cleaning laundry, and we have many others. So that's on the ground. Let's go over to Radford High School and see what's on the ground, above ground, contaminants, asbestos, dioxins, furans, you name it. And let's go just right across the sidewalk to the small school there, Makalapa Elementary School, where the grounds are contaminated with glass and broken glass, and underneath and there are some exposed contaminants that they found, and still yet, as I brought them to you a year ago, they're still there. So there's a conspiracy of sort, and that brings me to another unkind opinion or comment I'd like to share with many of you, and this is directed at many of you military people. Why is it that, and I'm a military person, former, I had 3 years service and will serve again if I have to, but we seem now to be focusing on those that have served, and we should respect them, and we, if we're pulling up at the same spot and I should be so kind and back up and let you park because you served in the Army and you're active duty. Well, let's see if we can see that same generosity and caring and loving and sharing and appreciation for the people that live here. Why do you think that you can pollute and then manipulate us behind laws and regulation, as I've demonstrated to you the GAO report where they refused to identify certain sites at Pearl Harbor because it was not politically good for them? So I just want to pull your coattails. This should be a two-way street, folks. And don't tell me we have to pollute you because we're in the mode of protecting our country's interests. I don't buy that. So if you think for those military, the captains and up and high and all those people that are in the decision making, and then find yourself gravitating to a closed door meeting behind the scenes with sleazy talk about hiding things and then give us a report. Yeah, I know you probably say the EPA allows it and the state tolerates it. Doesn't matter. It's still wrong. You should own up to these contaminants and these issues and be aggressive in cleaning them up, because you, in the meantime, while you're hiding and protecting your own image and interests, you're killing people, you're sickening them, and you're making the environment toxic. But yet, you don't have any objections to us buying you a drink in the bar and says, thank you for your service. Your service extends here too, not abroad. Don't abuse it. And I say that if you don't like it, then tough. You're hearing it from the right guy. I mean, enough already. When this much pollutants, willy-nilly, just flying around, laying around, and your approach is, let's delay some more. But while you're at it, thank you for recognizing that I'm serving my country. Can't go that way, folks. That's not American. It's just as good to give as it is to receive. So think about that, and I'm so sick and tired of picking up one more document to find out that, okay, another discussion of military cleanup. Oh, well, read further. Oh, there'll be a delay. Got no money. But thank you for the drinks and thank you for acknowledging my service. Can't go that way, folks. Maybe that's a disease. I think the American way is that we care from this side of the aisle to that side of the aisle. I compliment you, I respect you, you respect me, you compliment me. You compliment us by when you knowingly and informed that there are contaminants on our school grounds, there should not be a debate or discussion or triggering of some technical scheme that you can engage in with the EPA and the State Health Department. It's just wrong. You can run and hide. You may be successful to do this on and on, but I'm just telling you, military people, this is the image, and this is so when you see some people frowning at you, just be reminded, they too know that they love and appreciate what you do for us as a nation in protecting us, but they are equally offended when we find your crap laying all over the ground on our school grounds, and when we find it in our drinking waters, and you go and engage in a hide-and-seek mentality, a mindset, because you want to protect some political interest. It has to stop. So this document that the EPA has put out here, you go to their website, folks, and, oh, it's impressive. But all of us don't go to college and read and study and bother ourselves with learning the technical aspects of chemicals and contaminants and environmental impacts. Why are we not notified on a timely basis to participate, and why are not these meetings open to public? What do you think, we're going to be so disruptive that you can't hear yourself think? So this is the WPSOW investigation remediation releases. And I've already given you this, and many of them denied it and said, well, Carroll Cox, he's just, he's off the hook. But if you go to carrollcox.com and just Google Red Hill and listen to the shows, and I told you long time ago when they were saying, we don't really know if 27,000 gallons really leaked. And I'm telling you, we know and they know, and here's their documents. So, but again, they finally produced them. And results of the site investigation are summarized below. The nature and extent of contamination. The investigation analyzed rock cores from 3 borings advanced to install the new monitoring wells drilled in volcanic bedrock where no petroleum-impacted soil or material was expected. Groundwater from the wells, and I'm going to bore you with the numbers, and the 4 facility wells, and soil vapor from SVM wells in slant boring underneath. Rock core samples were analyzed for petroleum constituents. No constituents were detected above, now listen to this now, above reporting limits or associated action levels. You get that? They didn't say it's not in the ground. They didn't say the tanks are not impacting the environment. They just say it's there, but it's not above the level set by the health department. But then going back and reminding you that there are no standards or levels set by the EPA, no safe levels. So don't go to sleep on me here, folks, because we are being lied to. We're being held hostage, and I remind you, Camp Lejeune, if you got an email or you got a ability to Google or Internet, just Camp Lejeune in the Carolinas and type in for contamination. We've talked about that on this show as well. So the groundwater in the first round of groundwater sampling, TPHD concentrations exceeded the DOH environmental action level, EALs, for drinking water at all wells except RHMW 225401. No evidence of petroleum was observed. Groundwater from RHM2W02, located near Tank 5 and Tank 6, had the highest concentrations of petroleum compounds. Another well was the only well in which target volatile organic compounds, VOCs, and semi-volatile organic compounds were observed. TPHD, TPH gasoline range organics, TPHG, trichloroethylene, TCEs, naphthalene, methyl naphthalene, and methyl naphthalene concentrations reported for unfiltered groundwater samples was above the drinking water action level, but the dissolved and filtered lead concentrations reported for this well was below action levels. And I apologize for rattling through it, but it's so frustrating that when all of this came to light, then there was this frenzy, and the Gabberts and the Chris Lees, and they got to get their faces on, and like they were statesmen, and it was on and on and on. And now the final results was they get to go behind closed doors, and I was told by a top official in the state, the Navy does not want us to talk to the public about this. If the Navy is a violator and contributing to the contaminants and the responsible party, how does the Navy then get to dictate to the State Health Department and the EPA what gets out to the public? So this is kind of scary, let me tell you. Andy Anderson's matters and his handling is a picnic compared on a scale and the involvement of the legislators, and they made a resolution. And mind you now, keep in mind, they so quickly cite this resolution, but the resolutions are not binding. They sign an agreement, but again, they can back out on that. And who in the EPA going to stand up and say no to the military people? They're sister agencies. And for years, the EPA was involved in the activities up there at that site, in the oily pits and the dumping of the oil in the streams and the lava stream. They knew about it. They knew all of it. They know about it. It was not a Superfund site, but the equivalent. But they didn't tell us. You can go to carrollcox.com and see some of the earlier postings that we've done about the oil pits and what have you. But folks, it's worth sitting here sounding frustrated to say to you that this thing called transparency on the part of David Ige, I don't know if it's because he's an engineer, or I don't know if it's because he means well, but just doesn't know how to tell his appointees and his friends to get busy and don't lie to the people, open it up, transparency. I don't know what the problem is, but when I've learned, and this has been going on for months now, and you see them on occasion when I visit the state office, I see the Navy and they're all in uniform and they're going in, and the EPA and, the public. You have two public people. I guess they're there at this point. Maybe not. Maybe they've excluded all the people. But they're not posting in a timely fashion minutes of the meeting. They're making decisions. And they're not involving the public. Soil vapor samples were collected to evaluate, this document says, evaluate the health risks associated with intrusion of soil vapor into the Red Hill tunnels, and evaluate SVM wells as potential leak detection devices. Samples were collected in Suma canisters and slant borings beneath. And VOCs, the risk of industrial workers was found to be insignificant. And this document now was May 4th, 2016. That's when this document was produced. And again, it's the Red Hill Administrative Order on consent, attachment of scope of work and deliverable. I'm here to tell you that there is some serious hiding and go seek on the part of the military and the part of the State Health Department, and I don't know how to explain to you or even say to you why. What's the rationale? We know it's there. We know the tanks are there. We know the Chinese know they're there and the Russians, so it's not a concern for this national security. And we know they're leaking. We can read the papers. We know that. You're reluctant to tell us. So what's the big secret? You're affected just like the rest of us poor bunnies. That's the, if there's any benefit to this or joy, see, you can't escape this. One planet, one place to live. You can poison us, but then you're doing it yourself. You can get money and you can have prestige, but you're poisoning yourself and your family and your generations to come. So think about it. I'm not begging you. I'm just trying to remind you that certain things, money don't matter. So when you're out breathing air and you're out there on the golf course, and that golf course used dirty soil with contaminants brought in from Makalapa, Radford High School, military base, Hickam, and will spread on the golf course, and you're out there and you got your $1,000 golf club now, not clubs, and your personal built golf cart parked by your Maserati. Guess what, guys? Take a good strong whiff of the soil. You can't escape it. Your friends are poisoning you while they're poisoning us. But anyway, we'll talk to you next week, and sad note there to leave you on, but it's the truth, folks. Our government goes behind closed doors to tell us nothing and to sit there and strategize on how to lie to us about water that's contaminated with the EALs and the no standards and the specific risk base. You go figure that one out. But we'll see you next week. Take care.